Hello, I'm Barbara Mueller, and I welcome you to peacepodcast.org. You know, we're on 103. That's 103 peace builders who have created opportunities for you to be motivated to work for peace. This is peacepodcast.org. And if you don't want to watch our faces and our beautiful ideas and expressions, go to Spotify when you're in your car and listen to us on Spotify. You're in for a big treat today. Today, we're going to talk about my favorite subject, peace. Peace on our planet. My second favorite subject, Rotary. Rotary is an important component for peace. The strategies that our individual clubs perform, and the wonderful way that we implement peace in our regular meetings. So this podcast is about peace, mutually assured survival, and happiness. And if we have peace, think of the happiness we'll have on our families, in our homes, and around the world. So today you're going to meet Fergal McCarthy. Welcome, Fergal McCarthy.
Hi, Barbara. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to finally get the chance to do this.
It is my pleasure to have you here. Fergal is the Peace Programs Manager at Rotary International in Evanston. His key responsibility at Rotary is the continued implementation of an overarching strategic plan for the many peace-building activities that Rotary currently offers. You know, think about that Rotary currently offers. If you don't know much about Rotary, Google Rotary International on find out what Rotary is. I'm wearing a Rotary pin, which says peace. After the 2016 World Peace Conference, Rudy Westervelt and myself started the Rotary International Peace Group. We're called Rotary E-Club of World Peace. So Rotary is growing, and we need a peace chair, and we have a peace program manager named Fergal. He's very excited about an opportunity that you may want to get involved with. It's called welcome.us. He's going to talk a little about that. But before taking his position with Rotary, he worked for the RAND Corporation in California, Prime Minister's office in Ireland. You'll hear that in his voice, as well as the Irish Foreign Ministry. He holds a BA in theology and world religions and an international peace studies, both from Trinity College in Dublin and an MA in cooperative ethnic conflict studies. Think about that. Cooperative ethnic studies. Welcome, Fergal. I am so glad you're here.
Cheers, Barbara. Thanks so much. And thanks for that nice intro.
Well, we're going to begin with a question. You've been on a peace journey. Tell us a little bit about how that peace journey led you to Rotary, and how your peace journey in Rotary is helping us create the peace our planet needs today.
I suppose growing up in Ireland in the 80s, in particular in the 90s as well, I suppose, when we had the peace agreement, it was we were a household that was I grew up in a house where my dad, at least, was very interested in Irish politics and in the situation in Northern Ireland. His family was from there. He was his dad was from Northern Ireland, so it was a very close connection. And he had all of his aunts and uncles still living up there, and a lot of his brothers as well still living in the north. So Northern Ireland politics and Irish politics was just always something that was in the house. It was something that he always discussed with me. So my interest in that, it's hard not to venture into conflict and efforts to bring about peace when you look at Irish history, and when you look at recent Irish history with the formation of the state, and of course then the outbreak of the Troubles in the 60s. So I think that was probably my first real interest in conflict, in deeply divided societies. And then, of course, I would have sort of grown up through the whole peace process era as well, you know, from the early 90s to the late 90s, with the signing of the Belfast Agreement in 98. So that whole transition was also just fascinating to kind of follow as well. But yeah, I suppose my trips back and forth to see family in the north, or back and forth to go shopping, the shops in the north were always better than in the south when we were younger, being part of the UK. They had different candies, they had different bags of chips and gum and whatnot than we had in Dublin. So yeah, I had a lot of memories of traveling back and forth to the north to kind of get those small pieces. But to see the army and to see and sort of to have it sort of explained to you, I mean, my parents tried to shield it from us, but of course, if you're a curious kid, you can find out information. The idea that there would be people on one side of a street or one side of a neighborhood that would dislike somebody else because of their faith, or any sort of social, cultural, ethnic demarcation. But in the north, of course, it was a not a theological conflict, but the divisions were religious based.
I bet that was hard to see because you're a young person and you like to play with your friends. You don't care what religion they are. They're your friends, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, none of this, yeah, because in the South, we didn't have sectarianism, we didn't have divisions of that kind. Um, so, yeah, in fact, the South was predominantly Catholic, but there was kind of an affluence to the fact that you might actually go to a Protestant high school. So it was the complete opposite. People were drawn to, lived amongst each other and were drawn to each other's cultural institutions. So it's very different in the South. So then to see it in the North and to see what they call peace walls, those walls that they built to divide neighborhoods, was just, it sort of really burnt an impression on my mind and sort of.
Yeah, our experiences kind of guide us, don't they? Our experiences bring us into the realization that there's something I can do about this.
Right. I mean, yeah, because it seems nonsensical, it seems bizarre. It seems it's hard to comprehend why, when you see people that sound alike and they eat the same foods, and they look very alike and whatnot. It's hard to see the divisions on the face of it, but then when you see it in reality, when you see it in the sort of somewhere like Belfast or Derry, when you see it in the neighborhoods, and like I said, the peace walls that divide the communities, which ironically enough have actually got taller. Those peace walls have got bigger um, since the peace agreement. They've added height to them, which is a sort of a bizarre occurrence that in a time of peace there's a need for more division. But yeah, to see that as a kid, it's certainly had an effect.
What excites me about your background is the peacekeepers that came out of it, like Betty Williams. She went door to door and said, I'm a mother and I am tired of my children being shot for their religion. And she gets a Nobel Peace Prize. It was so motivating to be Betty's friend because we could talk about what peace meant to me as a mother. And Robert, my late husband, Robert Mueller, said, no mother should ever have to witness her child shooting the child of another mother.
Yeah.
And that's Betty Williams.
Yeah, I mean, Betty and Mairead Maguire, the lady that got the Peace Prize,
with her
in partnership with Betty. Yeah, the two of them were you just grew up knowing of these two women that really just sort of put it up to the combatants and the armed struggle and the security forces and all that they were sort of doing to one another. They for them to come out and speak so vocally was sort of a real strong memory from our youth. And it's kind of funny that the voice of women in conflict was something that I also sort of saw in the home. You know what I mean, with my mother and her objection to sort of the glamorization sometimes or the support of the armed resistance and whatnot. She was a voice that didn't sort of she was a voice of peace at all times. And I think that was interesting even to see it on a very immediate level.
I think we have a book coming up, The Voice of Women in Conflict. There's something about that. There's a magical ring. I think about the Peter Yo, who is the Better World Foundation, the money that Fred Turner gave to the United Nations. He said, when we bring women peacekeepers into conflict zones, peace happens. And so I think this voices of women in conflict, or mothers in conflict, or women, gosh, that's a wonderful title. Well, how was your mother influential in your life also? Because you mentioned her briefly. Was she a peacekeeper in her own heart?
Very much so, yeah. My dad was kind of quite a staunch nationalist. I suppose he was a man of his times. He saw what was happening in the north and thought it was very unfair. So he had some notions of peace himself, but he also had, I suppose, what you might say were sort of hardline opinions too, about London at that time, the London government at that time. But my mother, yeah, she was definitely a voice of peace and, as she might say, reason, a voice of reason. So yeah, she had a huge influence.
I
She
think mothers
was
do have that power. And I'm going to segue to women in Rotary now. That's what excites me. How women, I was one of the first women in the first woman exactly in the Hollywood Rotary Club. And when I joined, it was like the atmosphere of the club changed.
right.
Have you noticed that about women in Rotary? We have our
Yeah,
international Jennifer Jones. Oh my gosh, is she a powerhouse?
exactly. Yeah, we're in the presidential year of our first president with Jennifer, and of course we have our second female president coming shortly in 2 years' time. But Stephanie,
Yes.
President nominee Stephanie. Um, yeah, I mean, the presence of women in our peace programs and activities and initiatives is very evident. You know, and even at the secretariat level, you know, amongst our staff, there's a prominent female voice there and contribution to everything that we do in peace. Yeah, it's pretty striking.
Well, thank you for noticing. I love that women have this capability because we're mothers. Our hearts are real. We have empathy and we want to make sure that there's peace on our planet, which brings me to your brochure you just created. I love it. Listen to the title, Rotary Builds Peace. A brochure devoted to peace activities that Rotary has. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the brochure was I suppose it was it was one of many steps in our attempts to sort of bring a cohesion to all that we do in the peace area, all of our peace programs and activities and initiatives, and all of our Rotary entities, you know, RAGs and ICCs and whatnot, that are either working very directly on peace building, or there's just a nice welcomed peace building byproduct to what they do. So we wanted something, a publication or something that just brought everything together in one place. We wanted it to be high level. We didn't want it to be super detailed. We just wanted to give enough information so that our members and members of the public could flick through it. The idea was always for them to sort of be at a conference, flicking through this, saying, wow, I didn't realize that we did so much in peace, or I've been hugely invested with one program, but I didn't know this other program existed. And for people that are already invested in the peace area to then sort of also start contributing and engaging with something else, as well as those that hadn't engaged with the peace area at all. So we wanted to be glossy and interesting, like visually interesting. And we also wanted to create a sort of a design concept for the peace area, a look and feel that people would recognize peace content when they see it on social media. And the brochure was the first example of that. So that the kind of silhouetted dove with the vertical colored stripes is a design concept you'll see carry through a lot of our peace literature now, and our social media outposts, and our conferencing materials as well. So and you'll
Easy
see
to
it more.
read. That's what I like about it. It's very easy to read. It's very comprehensive, and yet it's easy to read. And in fact, what I'd like to do, if you could tell us where we could get this brochure for those who don't have it, and then could we put a QR code underneath your Peace podcast so people can actually just use their iPhone and get the brochure?
Yeah, we can do a QR code. We actually have that in the works. We have a small postcard being created, which has a QR code on it,
Oh,
so
good.
people can get the electronic version of the brochure, just to, you know, to help the environment and not be printing reams of
Well, we're
paper.
trying to save our planet from all of the paper waste. So this is a beautiful idea. Thank you. You know, I
Yeah,
am so excited about you and what you bring to our Rotary Action Group for Peace. Also, as you know, I'm chair for this year and the next year. If
yeah,
you were in my shoes,
fantastic.
what would you do to help us bring peace to the planet? Because we talked to all 35,000 clubs, Rotary Action Group for Peace. Think of those words. What's our action?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, we have a couple of projects that we'll be collaborating on going forward. But I think the Rag for Peace. I mean, we have a number of action groups that work on peace building initiatives. But I think the Rag for Peace is has a special position and a special relationship with the Secretariat, um, in furthering everything that we do in peace. And um, I think that relationship, the closer that relationship is, the better. You know, we want to see our Rotary entities, and in particular the RAG for Peace, we want to see it sort of functioning at its highest level. So, and we're making great strides in that regard. So, yeah, I suppose just being that conduit uh, for everything that we're doing in peace, and being that sort of voice for certainly for our members, for our membership, but also for the secretariat as well, and sort of promoting the assets and the programs that we want to get out there to our members.
That's beautiful. And I do appreciate you and Zuhal and the other rags, because we have a very focused intention. If it's the climate, if it's saving the water, the resources we have for water. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Rotary is this international magazine, their monthly magazine.
Yeah.
I get more data about the world in one issue than I get on Google searches. It's an amazing, we're talking about artificial coral reefs, we're talking about peace on the planet. And so with all of this, what are you excited about for Rotary?
In the peace area, well, sorry, just on the magazine, I couldn't agree more. I think the magazine, for myself, who's somebody very sort of invested in the peace area and work in the peace area, sometimes you can have those blinkers where you're not aware of what's going on in WASH or going on in literacy or Bell or whatever it is. So the magazine is such a resource for getting a nice snapshot of everything that the organization is doing, and of course, all of it has a there's I think there's peace in everything that we do, essentially. There is a peace building sort of element to everything that we do, so it's interesting to see what's going on in those areas. But moving forward, I think we have some really interesting peace initiatives coming up. Of course, we're going to have the announcement of the new peace center in the Middle East and North African region. That's going to be very exciting. I won't say anything on that. I'll leave that to my colleagues on the peace center team to mention that. But that's going to be a very significant development for the peace area. Of course, we've had the launch of Macarena, and it's ran for a couple of years as our peace center in sub-Saharan Africa, and that's been a huge success. So to be able to add to that, to add one to the MENA region is a really interesting development. So I think that's probably the most exciting thing. But there's lots of other really cool things happening. As we were chatting just before we came on, there's a slight revamp that we will be looking at of our exchange programs. So youth exchange, friendship exchange, and possibly ICCs, where they've always had a peace building element to them, goodwill and international understanding and friendship and all of those great goals that they have. But going forward, there'll be a slight sort of revamp where they have this more overt peace building agenda to them. So that's a really exciting development. It's something we've been talking about for a long time. So to have that in the works is really exciting. So yeah.
Wouldn't that be exciting if Rotary got the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize for bringing peace to our planet? Just like
it would. Yeah.
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 They ended polio. Why not bring peace to our planet through Rotary, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that would obviously be a very exciting. I mean, any recognition at all, and we do get recognized from time to time. So any recognition at all in the peace area is something that I think the organization is very proud of, and our members should be very proud of as well.
Well, I remember all these words from people who say, "What is Rotary?" And then when they find out, they think, "Well, why haven't I found out about it before?" So you have a big job in front of you, don't you?
Yeah, there's always those that you need to inform and build awareness. There's always programs you need to build awareness on, to sort of those that have never heard of Rotary or never heard of the peace part of Rotary.
Right.
So yeah, it's continuous, but we like to think that we have some assets in place now where it makes that job a lot easier. The brochure, of course, is a really useful resource.
Right.
That you can share as a PDF on an email now at this stage. But yeah, sorry, it's also hosted on our website, of course. And for Peace Month next month in February, Rotary Peace Month, we have the launch of a PowerPoint version of the brochure. Sorry, just to mention that as well, actually. So it will allow our members to literally sort of present and share what's in the brochure as a
Is that available yet?
It's coming out for next month, Peace Month. So it'll be,
because I'm doing a lot of speeches for Rotary Clubs, and I'd love to do this as my PowerPoint. So at some point when it's ready, let me know.
Well, of course, yeah, and allows you sort of share all that's in the brochure in
That's
a
oh,
PowerPoint
what a great
format. So
idea.
yeah,
Now, I have a dream. My dream is that we will have peace on the planet in 2023. And I believe in big dreams. The bigger the dream, the easier it is to get it to happen. So that's my big, big dream. What's your dream for our world right now?
sorry, that was peace by 2023, was it? By the end
No,
of this
peace
year?
in 2023.
Oh,
In
peace in,
I
yeah,
want these 12 months. We have 12 months. We have 17 sustainable development goals. We have 7 pillars of peace. We have all these fabulous ways we can go forward. So why not have peace as a goal for December 2023, right? Conflicts ended,
yeah,
war's over.
yeah, absolutely. You've got to be optimistic and you've got to be ambitious. I think Rotary is doing a huge amount of work. I think it's really doing its part in achieving that goal, whether it's 2023 or beyond. I think we're really sort of doing our part. We have the Peace Fellowship program, 150 Peace Fellows coming through that program every year, which is phenomenal. And then we have all of our other peace initiatives, our positive peace workshops and our positive peace activator trainings and many other peace initiatives that we offer. So I think we're really doing our part. I think we're a trusted voice. I think we're a trusted player in those discussions. So I think we can sort of take comfort in the fact that, like, at least we know Rotary is on the right side of history and the right side of the table and the right side of the discussion. But yeah, peace in the near future, I would say, would be. It's I mean, it's hard to be when you see the headlines. It's hard to be optimistic sometimes. We have, as I mentioned, we have this collaboration with Welcome.us, which we're very excited about. Refugee relief. So obviously one of the main outputs from conflict and from civil unrest is displaced communities, and it's reacting to refugee relief issues isn't something that we don't make any claims to be a refugee relief agency, and we know that other organizations can do and are doing a great job in that regard. But it is a space that we would like to move into a little bit, or at least collaborate with somebody that is in that space and sort of share their expertise with our members. So Welcome.us is a great fit for that. And we have already had a number of Ukrainian families and individuals resettle here in the US from the conflict. We've also had, of course, Afghani families and individuals resettled here through the Welcome.us program. And we're now moving into Venezuelan, and then we will move into other communities as well after that, other contexts as well going forward. So it's going to expand quite a bit.
That's exciting. Thank you so much. We're listening to Fergal McCarthy, and Fergal McCarthy is the Peace Programs Manager at Rotary International. And if you want to know more about Rotary International, go to ri.org. Am I correct with that?
Our website is www.rotary.org. Rotary.org.
All right, www.rotary.org. And I'm Barbara Gonmueller, and I thank you for joining us today. Just think of the many opportunities Rotary present. And if you have something to say about peace, contact your local Rotary Club and tell them you have a talk that you'd like to give them, because each week when we meet, we're always looking for speakers, and why not talk about peace? And so with that, I thank you. And thank you, Fergal, for being here today. Every time I talk with you, I get inspired because I see and I hear your enthusiasm for peace, and peace begins with each of us. And I thank you for being my guest today. Fergal, do you have a last word?
No, just thanks for having me. It was great to be here. I know we've been trying to do this for quite a while, so it's lovely to have the opportunity to do it.
It's my pleasure. God bless you, and may peace prevail on earth.